This is MRN Out Loud on MRN.com, presented by Bloomin' Mondays at Outback Steakhouse. And also brought to you by Hercules Tires. Ride on our strength.
MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Woody Kane, Joey Meyer along with you, and a special guest, Adam Alexander, is here. No racing this past weekend. We don't have laps to break down or anything like that, so we just wanted to chat at this point in the season about where we are, where we're headed, and what things might entail from here. Welcome. Good to have you on the program.
Oh, it's great to be with you guys. Always enjoy talking racing, and it's a good time of year to do that for sure.
You're pretty busy right now. Fox Sports has you hopping, so give the folks kind of a rundown of where they can catch you now, because it's almost like anytime you hit the button, you're there.
That was the Easter throw. It got you hopping.
Yeah.
Oh,
see?
is that what that was?
Yeah. You got the pastels going, so that's great.
Well, and I guess I should go home and count on my candy, right? From the Easter Bunny. Yeah, it has been a busy spring, and as most everyone probably knows, Fox has got the first half of the year when it comes to the broadcast rights, and so we do Race Hub Monday to Thursday, and I'm on sometimes all 4 of those days, usually at least 3, and then travel to the racetrack and do the Xfinity stuff Friday and Saturday, and then part of the Fox pre-race on Sunday. So it's a busy time of year. I've certainly enjoyed having an off weekend, and I think Easter should always fall before Talladega.
Yeah.
Doesn't every racer need a break before we go to that place?
Yeah,
Catch your breath. Yeah.
One of the things we can mention is the 2020 schedule is so unique, but this schedule, we've had Easter off for a very long time. Years ago, we raced, I want to say Nashville. We had a Saturday night race for a long time, but Easter Sunday has always been a weekend off. We get to watch as a crew guy from the garage side of things. Woody gets to cover the racing from the audio side to our race fans, but you actually get to stand in the booth. So far, we're 9 races into the season. The biggest surprise so far to you?
Biggest surprise to me would be that Kevin Harvick hasn't won yet.
Yeah.
I think, and I think they have run really well, put themselves in great position to win, including 10 days ago at Richmond. I think we all went into that race feeling like they were the favorite based on what they had done in practice, and certainly winning the pole. I don't think they've done a bad job at all.
Right.
I think they've gone through a lot of changes over there and dealing with a new Mustang. But I lost the bet. If someone had told me Kevin Harvick's not going to win in the first 9 races, I certainly would have gone the other way on that.
A week ago at Richmond, the Gibbs guys continue that trend of only 2 companies continue to win.
It's 11 straight now. It's 11
amazing.
straight. They've got
Penske
a stranglehold on the thing right now.
Penske and Gibbs. Yeah. That's interesting.
11 straight. I think it's 16 of the last 20.
Yeah,
because
that's insane.
You had a couple of wins by Chase in the playoffs last year, and then Kevin Harvick winning at Texas, Eric Almirola at Talladega. So 16 of the last 20 for those 2 organizations. They've been on a roll, and in particular what Gibbs has been able to do, putting 3 different drivers into victory lane, and Martin Truex Jr. getting his first not only of the year but on a short track. That might be another surprise.
That's amazing to me that it took over 80 tries for that guy to get a short track win.
Well, especially when you consider where the foundation of his career was laid, and we can all go back to his time in the Xfinity Series when he won those championships in back-to-back years, the Chance 2 Motorsports car.
He had a heck of a spotter then.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, you there?
Yeah, here we go.
But you remember, I mean,
yeah.
That team was virtually unbeatable, or at least probably dubbed the favorite or the top 2 or 3 every time we went to a short track. And an opportunity this weekend for Martin to cross another one off the board, because he's not won I was going to say at a plate track. I guess we can't call it a plate track anymore.
Yeah,
but
now we'll call them spacer tracks, right?
Yeah, he's not won at one of the Daytona or Talladega specials. Maybe we'll call it that.
Yeah, our highlight of the weekend was they showed that back in the Busch days of Martin and the Bass Pro riding the wall, the 8 car, him and Mike Wallace got together, and they played that routinely over the weekend. So I'm glad that won't be his highlight anymore, because that was his biggest highlight at Richmond for a number of years.
Yeah. Somebody else joked that he finally won at his home track, because he's got about 28 of them, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, we got to take a break here on MRN Out Loud. Adam Alexander is with us as we get set to head to Talladega following an off weekend. We'll look ahead at that and some other issues in the sport as we continue.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Listen up, builders. That's all that separates first place from dead last. When every second counts, you don't have time to second-guess your tools. That's why Procord's construction management platform was built to help your teams stay on budget, on schedule, and in control. With easy-to-use mobile tools, our software makes managing construction projects easier, whether you're building an airport or a carport. For more information or to schedule a free demo, visit Procord.com.
MRN Outloud presented by Outback Steakhouse, coming off an off weekend for the Easter break, getting set to head to Talladega, where things are going to be a little bit different this time, guys. They did a test after the Daytona 500, came up with a bigger spoiler, a few other adjustments, and the 500 was also the last official restrictor plate race, now going to tapered spacers. How do you think that might change things?
I have a feeling, based on what we've seen, at some of the other intermediate tracks with this, horsepower setup and all that. I think the racing will be still in a pack, and the draft is going to be the ultimate. We've always seen that at Daytona and Talladega, regardless of what kind of configuration. I'm anxious to see, how the drivers handle it. Mm-hmm. Does their approach change? But anytime we go to Daytona, Talladega, the intrigue is always going to be there, but I think greater anticipation based on the changes that we've gone through as we head to Talladega weekend.
I can almost expect, or it would not surprise me to see another rule change during the weekend. If
during the actual race weekend.
During the weekend, if on Friday we get out there in a big enough pack. All right. The larger spoiler and the package that we have will create enough area behind these cars that we're going to go a little faster than we did in the test for Daytona. Mm-hmm. We only had 4 cars for the test down there. And that, even if you put 2 cars side by side, you don't have enough energy behind those guys to get going faster than you would have 10, 12, 15 cars. Mm-hmm. Secondly, what will intrigue me the most is if we get back to tandem racing.
Yeah. See, you stole my thunder because that's where I was going to go.
Okay.
We had Brad Keselowski on a couple of weeks ago and asked him after the changes what he thought it might look like at Talladega. Listen to what he said.
I think that I'll be surprised if we don't get to tandems. The bigger spoiler, the different grill opening, and the higher rear bumper cover, all those things combined lend themselves to tandem racing. So, truth be told, we won't know until we get in the middle of the race. But, from an engineering standpoint, it makes sense that that's what will happen.
I was kind of taken aback. That came out of the blue to me because I had not heard that on anybody's radar up until then.
Well, the one frustration that I've always had as a broadcaster when we go to Daytona, Talladega, is that you have this anticipation of practice and that it's going to mean so much more and be so much more entertaining. And the reality is teams spend less time on track because they don't want to get involved in an accident and tear up their primary car. I'm curious, though, on the competition side, Joey, does that thought process change Friday at Talladega because teams realize we've not been in this setup and we need more time out there trying to get it all figured out for Sunday's race?
Yeah, I clearly expect on Friday to have at least one session of maybe not 40 cars, maybe not everybody in the garage, but we'll get together. We'll see the Toyotas and the Chevrolets who work together at Daytona and the Ford camp who has enough cars to do it on their own.
To make their own draft.
Exactly. Yeah. At the very least, I believe all the Ford guys will get together, and that'll put us 10, 12 cars in that group. And then you'll see the Toyotas and Chevrolets, I would say, work again together. That puts another 10 or 15 cars together. and then randomly everybody tries to fill in those gaps if they're on pit road enough. And I think you're going to see a good 10 to 15 car draft minimum to really find out how the cars are going to draft up to each other, the handling of the cars, because this is the first time we've had these higher bumper covers, bigger spoilers, the tapered spacer. See, now we're getting back into years ago. Spent so much time on the cowls of these cars and the way they were to suck up. Well, now all of that's changed.
Throw those notes away.
We mentioned it earlier in the season. This is one of those years that our past notes are irrelevant, right? When we went to the downforce levels that we're seeing now, we haven't seen these ever with the horsepower arrangements. And now that we're at Talladega, we no longer have a restrictor plate. We have a tapered spacer. How is the throttle response going to work? How is that car going to suck up? Is my front bumper going to line up that guy's back bumper? And that's the biggest key we have to worry about when we get, because we're still going to see bump drafting without a doubt. But how long and how easy is it going to be to push these guys? And the only way to do it is in practice.
And we, I don't know, it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we went to Daytona, and there was some change like this, and guys were out practicing more and more. We tore up a slew of cars before we ever got to the race.
The one thing I think for sure will look different Sunday compared to what we saw in our last trip to Talladega in the fall, Stewart-Haas Racing likely is not going to spend as much time out front. Now, I say that with hesitation, but I was looking at some notes, and I won't get these numbers exactly right, but I was reading this a couple of weeks ago. I think what I saw was that Stewart-Haas Racing was first to fourth, or at least owned the top three positions for like 135 of 188 laps and led over 150 of the 188 laps. I would anticipate this configuration, this setup on the race car will dictate more lead changes and more movement at the front than what we saw when those cars just lined up and went together and really controlled the event.
Yeah, well, one of the things, the rule changes that they gave or took away from the race teams was the amount of rear end skew. What we see at Talladega is these cars aligned where the front of the car and the rear of the car is not aligned straight. The Stewart-Haas cars were the most aggressive with the right skew or the left side of the rear of the car going to the left, and that gets that spoiler out. So they went to a maximum speed, low handling configuration. Everybody else was kind of in the middle. Only worked for those guys if they were out front and they were able to work as a team. We saw, like you said, all three of them, all four of them being able to line up and stay out front, and it was the only way that configuration at the time was going to work for them. Now we got rid of that. Now everybody essentially is in the same window of skew relative to handling and speed. So like you're saying, you're going to see more lineups up front switching out throughout the race.
One last thing before we go to break, guys, on this topic. What Brad Keselowski said, is it pie in the sky, out of the blue, way out there that we may see tandem racing?
I hope.
I was just going to ask, what do you want to see, Joey?
I liked it.
I think it's fun. I love that, one car's getting a little warm. You got to execute the exchange.
Right. Yeah.
I just think it brings so many variables into the race. And to me, it's a piece that kind of changed the way we look at Daytona and Talladega.
When we talk about racing being entertainment, right? There's no doubt we're trying to make entertaining. And the better the racing goes, the more activity that's going on the track. The drivers aren't fans of I call it pod racing, of tandem racing. Mm-hmm. They're not a fan of it. They want to stay out front and lead every lap and have everybody else behind them. I get it. But when you're watching on the track or listening on the radar or the scanners, there's more activity during tandem and pod racing than ever.
Yeah,
at any track, anywhere we go, there's more activity, more communication, more teamwork. Race fans may not know this, but there was one weekend before NASCAR actually pulled it back, that the drivers had a dial on the dash, and they could select a radio knob like you would tune your car in the radio, and they had every single team that they wanted to work with, every driver, and we could select, the driver could. The spot had to work with that. We had to have our radios tuned because if he was changing his radio, I wanted to be able to, hey, I'm on the 31 team. Click, click, click. He had this big knob. I got kind of crazy at that point in time, but that's how involved and how exciting to me this tandem/pod racing was. Will we get back to that level? I don't know because there's so many rules, but that's one of those rule changes I could see. If NASCAR sees a lot of it going on Friday, they're going to wait a minute. Yeah. And they already said we can't do it in the Xfinity and the Truck Series. Like no locking bumpers. They made that. I could see at least one small rule change coming up by Friday.
Oh, boy. A lot to look forward to. Don't forget, this is MRN Out Loud presented by Outback Steakhouse, and it is also the Motor Racing Network's Talladega Superspeedway Procore Week here on MRN. A lot of special programming coming up through the week. Make sure you check all that out. Quick timeout. We'll be right back.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right, Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Since 1942, Freightliner has been an industry innovator, developing trucks renowned for their dependability and efficiency. Whether your job requires a dump truck, a concrete mixer, or a delivery truck, you can count on Freightliner to maximize your productivity. With a wide range of horsepower and torque rating that meet even the most demanding job conditions. Freightliner trucks are built to build your business. Learn more at Freightliner.com. Freightliner, work smart.
Even though one person stands on the podium, NASCAR is a team sport. From the pit crew to the wind tunnel. Teams are using technology to gain a competitive advantage. So why shouldn't your construction team? At Procore, we designed our software to do just that. Our easy-to-use mobile tool helps connect your teams, projects, and data so you can get more done in less time. For more information or to schedule a free demo, visit Procore.com.
Back on MRN Out Loud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Woody Kane, Joey Meyer, and our special guest, Adam Alexander from Fox Sports here. We talked a little bit about Talladega, but let's back up a little bit now that we've had this off-weekend Easter break to reset. The new package was all the rage, all the talk coming into the season. We've seen some things great, some things not so great. Where are we now with this thing?
I think we'll know a whole lot more probably post-Coke 600. I think we need two more good intermediate tracks before we truly have a baseline on where everyone is and where this thing goes throughout the balance of the season. If you go back, we left California, West Coast swing, and we had three intermediate races at that point, Atlanta, Las Vegas, and California, and there were a lot of teams that wanted to tinker, mess around, make some changes. They did. We saw some positive gains, I think, at Texas.
That was really the first opportunity they had because all those cars out west had to already be built and loaded and ready to go.
Exactly. And then we've had three short track races. We go to Talladega. We're not really going to learn anything there. I think Kansas and the Coke 600 are the two events that will help us gain a little bit more knowledge on where everybody is and maybe help determine who are the drivers to beat as we get into the summer months and then ultimately advance toward the playoffs in September.
You know, even though we haven't seen the big three like we saw last year with this new configuration of cars, I still believe the better teams and companies are still just being better.
Mm-hmm.
We're not
good is good.
We're not solving any world crisis issues with making a bad driver good or a good driver bad. And I don't think one of the things that gets overlooked as we look at trying to get better racing, every racetrack still has a personality. And I don't believe the configuration of the cars can change that personality, right? We see tracks that notoriously race difficult from a entertainment standpoint, i.e. Phoenix. Mm-hmm. That race was still the same. The one thing that I'm happy about, and I look forward to, like you mentioned with Kansas and Charlotte, is that normally the new repaved Texas, the last two races, 2 years, were really blah because of the way we reconfigured turn one, and it was flatter, and we had the higher bank 3 and 4. Teams were kind of running around on the bottom. We really couldn't race that much.
That's why they used the tire dragon and all that. Yeah, I know you love that. The tire dragon and all that, trying to open up another lane.
Yep, but we did see this new configuration really add to the personality and almost make it like the old before we configured Texas. And that's what's exciting about the Charlotte and the Kansas races coming up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of data out there that kind of shows that most of the tracks we've seen more passing for the lead. The ones that we didn't, and I don't know if this is an exact correlation or not, but there were fewer cautions to bunch the field up to allow that opportunity.
The other thing I would be curious about as we go through the next couple of months, And I would ask this question: through 9 races, has our champion in 2019 won a race? And I ask that question only because, and this is something I heard Harvick hit on about a week ago. We're talking about the hot start for Kyle Busch and momentum and maintaining that level of confidence throughout the year. If you rewind to 2018, Joey Logano didn't win his first race until Talladega. I will be curious to see what Harvick, Boyer, and in particular Stewart Haas is able to do throughout the summer months, and maybe even the guys at Ganassi, because Larson's off to a bad start. And Kurt's run well enough that you would say if they turn some corners, they could be in contention for the title. I think it's going to be fun to look back at these first 9 races at the end of the year to see what it really meant, what kind of an indicator it was for what we were going to see for the last, 3 quarters of the season.
Yes, sometimes teams that come out of the box of first 9 races that are hot, that's as good as they've been. That's as good as they're going to be. But a team like Kurt Busch, a team like Stewart Haas Racing, where they've been right there, they're still getting better. And what you don't want to have happen is you talk about getting hot too soon. You don't want the Gibbs guys and the Penske guys who've clearly dominated this season to not get any better at the same rate that the teams that haven't won yet to get better, because they're competing. Winning right now, the only thing it guarantees you is that first round of the playoffs. That's it. That's the only thing you've accomplished, is to be able to continue on after the first 3 races of the playoff.
The other thing I would say is look at the drivers who have won and look how long they have been with their crew chiefs. And the only one that really doesn't fit the model is Denny Hamlin, Chris Gable. But you look at Paul Wolfe and Brad Keselowski, Todd Gordon, Joey Logano, Kyle Busch and Adam Stevens, and Martin Truex Jr. and Cole Pearn. Those 4 drivers and crew chiefs have been together for a while. They've all enjoyed great success. I think that gave them an advantage going into this year with all the changes we're going through.
I talked with Chris Gabehart at Bristol about the upcoming races and where things kind of stood. And one thing that he said that jumped out to me, you mentioned cars being kind of dominant and then staying there. That's how Truex won a championship when we first went to this playoff point thing. They realized before anyone else, we better pile up these points. And he had such a war chest by the time we got to the playoffs, nobody could derail them before they got to Homestead.
Their margin for error was just much greater.
Right, and that's the kind of thing that Chris Gabehart was pointing out. He said the whole thing about getting your fleet in order and trying all these experimental things is overblown. He said, no, we're all about building up those playoff points now. We want that war chest to go into the playoffs with, and that's something to keep an eye on as we move in that direction. The other thing is when the switch came, you mentioned earlier in the program Stewart Haas trying to figure out the Mustang, and we know they're good, and good will eventually still continue to be good. But remember when they switched from Chevy to Ford, there was a little bit of an adjustment period there, but once they got it, they took off. And that might be a similar scenario that we see coming down the stretch here. But the wild card I want to throw into you guys is, what about Team Hendrick? Are they going to catch fire? Are they going to figure things out? I mean, we've seen some inklings of progress, but where are they?
Richmond got overlooked in the fact that from a company standpoint, they were all on top of each other. In the past races with Chase being so well and the other 3 being in the back, it was kind of say, well, they have a good car. But this was, they were all in the mid-teens. If you look at Chase, and he had to come from the rear twice with inspection and a pit road issue, Jimmy, and then Bowman, and then help me out.
Byron.
William Byron, thank you. All 4 of them were essentially from 12th to 19th in that range. So that's good for them from a company standpoint. Whenever you can finish around each other, you know your cars were equal, and it's a matter of getting a little better as a company. When you had Chase Elliott always competing for a win and the other 3, you're kind of scratching your heads. Do we have bad cars? Do we have bad setups? What's going on with our drivers? There's a lot more question marks. But realistically, Richmond was one of those first races that you've seen Team Hendrick operate as a company with all 4 of their cars really sitting on top of where they finished.
Yeah, and really, it was late last year before Chase got hot.
Well, and the surprising thing to me, if you look at the first 9 races of the year, I think on only 2 occasions, and this number may not be right, maybe 3, but I think it's on 2 occasions has the top finishing Chevy been from HMS. Kurt Busch, I think, has done it 3 or 4 times, a couple of opportunities up front for Austin Dillon in the Daytona 500, and again at Richmond. In fact, at Richmond, Austin Dillon was the only Chevy in the top 10. So I think back to what Joey was saying. You do want those cars to have similar speed, but rather than similar and finishing from 12th to 19th, you want them, winning races in its first to 8th. Because I think already 4 times this year Stewart-Haas put all 4 of their drivers inside the top 10. Those are the kinds of results we need to see out of Hendrick Motorsports.
How refreshing has it been to not get to Wednesday, Tuesday, waiting for some huge penalty to drop? I think that's kind of been overlooked this year because now a lug nut penalty is about the most we see midweek. When we leave the track, we know what happened.
We had that years ago. You know,
but I'm talking about in recent history.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we had it years ago. The teams kind of got used to at midnight, 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd have a post-tech inspection. When we left the track, we knew whether we were being penalized Monday or Tuesday, right? We knew it already. We got used to that. Well, then when they built the R&D center, the whole process not only was delayed post-race, but it was delayed for days.
Right, they had to get the cars back from wherever they were.
They had to get the cars all the way back. The R&D center and the media camped out at the R&D center waiting for that infamous who's being penalized. It is refreshing. Now when you go home, you take off on your team plane, you land. By the time you land, that 90 minutes is up. Everybody in the garage knows who did what and how. Now, obviously, the teams are participating at the racetrack. They already know. But when you land, there's no second guessing anymore. It's a quiet refreshness that we don't even talk about.
I always wait for that all clear tweet that comes out, as Joey said, about 90 minutes after the checkered flag. And I have to admit, if you had asked me to predict how long will it be into the season before we get bad news on a Sunday night and a win is taken away, I would have thought it would have already happened. So I think credit to NASCAR for, one, putting the new plan in place, doing their due diligence and making sure they know where these race cars are and what works and what doesn't work. And credit to the teams. Evidently, the message that was sent with this new setup was strong enough that the team said, we're going to walk the line, but we're dang sure not going to go across it because we've not had any problems yet.
They're towing the rope really hard right now. We see a little bit of issues with pre-qualifying, especially in the impound style races like we saw at Richmond. But for the most part, inspection should never be talked about on Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Be sure to tune in to all of our programming this week as Motor Racing Network heads to Talladega Superspeedway as part of Procore Week here on the Motor Racing Network. One final break on the program. We'll come back and wrap it up next.
G'day, America. It's the moment you've all been waiting for. That's right. Outback Delivery is here. Now you can enjoy all your Outback favourites anywhere. Our signature centre-cut sirloin at home.
It's here.
Or game day party platters with Kookaburra wings that'll have both teams cheering.
It's here.
Or steak and lobster for a date night at home.
It's here.
Head over to Outback.com and place your orders because Outback Delivery is here. Outback Steakhouse. Aussie rules. Delivery availability varies. Delivery charge may apply.
Hi folks, Mike Bagley here. At MRN, we rely on equipment from Racing Electronics.
Joey Logano to the lead on the back straightaway.
Racing Electronics has scanners and headphones. We can listen to every uncensored conversation between driver and crew.
You won the championship, baby, yeah!
And when we need live audio, in-car cameras, and up-to-the-second statistics, we use their latest handheld unit called Legend. To learn more about these products and many others, visit racingelectronics.com. Racing Electronics, the official two-way communication partner of MRN.
Listen up, builders. That's all that separates first place from dead last. When every second counts, you don't have time to second-guess your tools. That's why Procord's construction management platform was built to help your teams stay on budget, on schedule, and in control. With easy-to-use mobile tools, our software makes managing construction projects easier, whether you're building an airport or a carport. For more information or to schedule a free demo, visit Procore.com.
MRN Outloud, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Woody Kane, Joey Meyer, and our special guest, Adam Alexander from Fox Sports is with us. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Darrell Waltrip announcing his imminent retirement from the broadcast booth. I think Sonoma is going to be his last race. Boy, that had to hit like a whirlwind over at Fox.
Yeah, I think anytime you say goodbye to someone that's been that big a part of what you do, it's difficult, and it takes some time to prepare for. But I think Darrell goes so far beyond that because, and I think Mike Joy said it best at the press conference he held up at Bristol a few weeks ago, and that is Darrell probably has put together 2 Hall of Fame careers. One certainly as a driver, and he's already a member of the Hall of Fame based on his numbers and his accomplishments there with 3 championships and 84 wins. But when you look at what he has contributed to the sport in the last 19 years in the broadcast booth, that's Hall of Fame worthy as well. So Daryl's had an unbelievable career, great guy to be around, so much good energy, and he's going to be missed, not just as a broadcaster, but I think as a personality that we've been, we've become accustomed to connecting with on a weekly basis.
You know, one of the faces you'll see forever ingrained in everybody's memory is from 2001, the February race. He not only got to call his brother's first win, but unfortunately the devastating accident that happened in Turn 4. And it was such a sad moment because he was experiencing the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
But he didn't know it at that moment.
But I mean, simultaneously, you could see the fear on his face.
Yeah.
And from that day 1 to 19, he's brought that emotion, and that's what we were getting at, is the emotion he's brought from the last 19 years will be missed. Obviously, the iconic career of 3 championships is really, I mean, how many drivers? Tony Stewart and a couple of others have more. But 19 years in the booth, and again, watching these races, watching the evolution of the sport, he's seen a lot, and he's done a really good job for our fans.
Yeah, I was struck by, at the press conference, you mentioned 19 years. I didn't realize it had been that much until somebody put a number to it. But, I mean, you could probably count on one hand the number of guys who have been at the forefront of their particular sport for as many decades as Darrell Waltrip has. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, always smiling, always has good energy, and I think Darrell has been really happy and kept things in perspective and enjoyed his time. Not everyone can say that, and we've seen people that have had great careers but didn't appear to enjoy the ride. I think Darrell has enjoyed the ride and certainly laid out some really good lessons for all of us.
Yeah. One of the things that gets overlooked is I was talking to his bus driver, Jimbo Diggs, drove for Dale Earnhardt for a number of years and now is retiring. He's also retiring with Darrell Waltrip.
We were joking. He has certain standards of who he drives the bus for, right?
If you don't have 3 championships, I'm not driving for you. But one of the interesting things that he was repeating what Stevie Waltrip said, which is Darrell's wife, they haven't had a spring off or a summer off in over 50 years. When you think back, 19 years as a media broadcaster, but before that was racing. 50 years they've been in this sport, active, haven't had a summer off, haven't had a spring off. They now can look forward to doing what they want to do, not what they're required to do. That's an interesting.
Yeah, and how cool is it that he gets to walk away on his terms when he wants? That's something that I think we all can kind of get behind, is wish for the way our careers come to an end, at least that part of it. Look ahead for us a little bit with Fox Sports. Any teasers, anything coming up that we can keep an eye out for over the next few weeks?
We're always excited when we get
Adam
back
Strader
here.
maybe in the studio or something
none
like
of
that.
None of that. We are excited about our new studio for Race Hub, and the virtual studio, I think, has been well received by the fans and the NASCAR community.
Looks cool.
We'll continue to grow that. And then, look for when we get back here to Charlotte. It's always a good time for us, I think, with the All-Star race and what a big event that is, and how fun that is for the race fans, not just that come to the track, but at home. And then the Coke 600. That weekend is always special, but this year we're doing our Xfinity broadcast drivers only. We've done that the last couple of years, 1 year at Pocono, last year at Talladega. This year will happen at Charlotte on what's one of the great weekends in racing, so we look forward to that.
One of the things Fox brought to NASCAR has been fantastic. They've now brought to bowling, and I'm a huge bowler. I travel around, do a lot of tournaments, but the bowling coverage from Fox is outrageous because of all the statistics that you can watch. We all watched the Masters was fantastic, and we were able to follow along with how the ball rolled and everything, and all that technology is great, and I'm looking forward to what you guys are bringing to NASCAR.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Adam, thanks for being here, man.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Good luck and continued success at Fox Sports. I know you got a cod over there really somewhere, don't you? Tell the truth.
It feels that way sometimes, for sure.
All right, thanks, Adam. Don't forget, guys, we will be at Talladega Motor Racing Network. We'll kick everything off on Friday with Xfinity practice, 12:30 Eastern Time, the Money Lion 300 Xfinity race, Saturday at 12:30 Eastern, and the Geico 500 Sunday at 1 Eastern. Kim Kuhn and I will be reunited for our pre-race show. Make sure you're there for that. All kinds of programming. Find out all about it at MRN.com. For Joey, for Adam, I'm Woody. See you next week.